All right. We are live, but we got to let it breathe just for a brief moment while we get everybody in the room here. Thanks for sticking with us, y'all. Running late Sundays. Hey, it'll all be worth it when we're dropping the gut reaction moments after the game, the final gun. Sundays a little bit more loosey goosey. Okay, go live. Looks like we're good on Facebook. Looks like we're good on IG. So welcome in, everybody. It's the Mile High Huddle podcast. I'm your host, Chad Jensen, and with me is my fellow football priest. You know him, you love him, Zack Kelberman. Zack, how's it going, dude? I hope you had a good weekend. We got a lot to talk about today, though.
It's been pretty good, Chad. My birthday was yesterday, so I've been out there celebrating and taking in me getting a year older, 35. Can't believe I made it this far, but I can't believe it's been this far already. So it's been, it's been fun, but I'm happy to be potting with you again as always, partner.
Dude, happy birthday. Everybody, let's we can't sing the song. I'll give you the song. You ready? It's a version of the song. Only for you. I'm like Marilyn and Mr. President, back in the day. Those who know. It's your birthday. Shout hooray. We're gonna sing to you today. 1 year older and wiser too. Happy birthday to Zack. Huh?
Appreciate that.
Yeah. 35, you say.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I remember those days back when I was 35, 10 years ago. Those were the days. Let's see, 10 years ago, that would have been right about when MHH started. Ish.
Yeah.
Somewhere in there. But awesome, dude. So good birthday weekend, though?
Yeah, it was good. But 10 years, Chad, is going on the Broncos playoff drought, as
I
well.
know.
And I haven't experienced that in the last 10 years. So hopefully that changes this season.
The Duchess giving you some
Thank you, Michaela.
HBD props.
Thank you, Michaela.
Some HBD plus. She jumped in with a Michaela bomb from the top rope. Talk about birthday present. There you go. From the Duchess. We love you, Michaela. Thank you. And she's saying Nix is really separating himself from everybody else in our QB camp. So happy to see that. Nix scores 6. So, yes, some interesting things. And real quick, before I'll grab you just one sec. Well, I'll grab this too, David, because it's on the same subject. Good to see the Papa Bear saying Nix for 6 and his hashtag game remains strong. I truly believe Bo Nix is our QB1. The cream always rises to the top, David and Michaela. And Zack, I got to get your thoughts on this because I wrote an article around it. I thought it was newsworthy enough to get to this, but we've heard kind of the first week or so of Broncos camp. It was kind of more of the same from OTAs, where it was, some exciting stuff from Bo Nix, but Stidham, is looking the part of the competent, QB1 in command, all this. Yeah. And then as it's kind of bled into week 2, and now we're going to be going into week 3, Bo Nix has been eating into the reps. His rep share, let's say, has climbed, whereas Zach Wilson, he's almost relegated to an afterthought at this point. But one of the big differences we see in how they're performing on the field is illustrated here, Zach, perfectly by Adam Trautman, the tight end, who I just want to remind everybody before I read a couple of these things. He's the guy that pre-draft Zach was like, yeah, I believe in Stidham. He's ready to be a starter. He's our guy. He's our future, etc. How much of that, Zach, was just lip service paying to the guy that for now is our top quarterback on the roster? I don't know. But on the subject of Stidham, this is what he said real fast. Quote, Adam Trautman, quote, I think he's so decisive. He understands coverage as well. He has great control of the huddle as well. There's a confidence that goes into that as an offense when you step in the huddle with someone who's like, hey, this is what we're doing. Hey, listen up. Someone who's really in control of it. And I'd say decisiveness. He's always been able to make the throws and everything. And he's very tuned into, hey, this isn't going to be here. Let's go to the next progression. He looks great, close quote. So before I get to the Bo Nix stuff, Zach, your observations on Trautman's observations of Stidham.
I think he's being a good teammate. And, listen, Chad, that's basically what we've been sold about Jarrett Stidham is that, he knows what he's doing with the offense. He knows his capabilities. He tries to minimize turnovers and maximize profit. It's basically the Jarrett Stidham experience. But what he says about Bo Nix, I think, leads credence to the fact that he will be the week 1 starter.
Hold on. I got to get this ticker going, dude. Hold on. Here we go. Just for my boy right here. There we go. There we go. Okay. Ronk, what up, dude? So good to see you. Thank you for the star support, leading the way on Facebook. Much love, big dog. Okay, Zach. So he's decisive. You know, he's good at changing it in the huddle, this and that. Okay, that's the Cliff Notes version of Trautman on Jarrett Stidham. All right, let's see what he has to say about the rookie. First things first. Hey, how's he doing at the line of scrimmage, Adam? Quote, he's doing great. People talk about all the games he started in college. I think that truly means something. You see it in the way he commands a huddle and the way he steps up into the pocket where he can find his voids. That's an experience thing. A lot of guys coming out might not have that because they played in like 20 or 30 games. Bo's played in like 60, 61 or whatever it is. He's obviously been doing very well, close quote. Obviously, Zach, as if, hey, obviously the sky's blue, right? Like, obviously he's been doing very well. Then he's asked, Zach, hey, what do you think about Bo Nix kind of being able to stand out because he can throw into tight windows and he's willing to throw into tight windows? Quote, there comes a point where you want someone to be smart with the ball and check it down and everything, but you want to play with someone who's, then he kind of cuts himself off. He can do that stuff and it makes you feel good about it. He's willing to take cuts himself off again. I don't want to say the risk, but he's willing to do it. I think that's also, obviously, it comes with experience. He's seen all these windows because of how much he's played, close quote, Zach.
And I kind of dotted my previous comment. I didn't want to spoil what he said about Bo Nix, but he mentioned twice, Chad, the E word, experience. That's the calling card with Bo Nix coming into the NFL, coming into the Broncos, was his experience. And, you know, the fact that Sean Payton wanted a quarterback competition, he wanted to sell it to the locker room. The locker room knows which way the wind is blowing. The locker room knows that Bo Nix was a first-round pick. He's the most experienced college quarterback of all time, and he is going to be the guy at some point or another. But as the training camp has gone along, and I take, you know, with a grain of salt what his teammates say. It's all player speak and teammate speak, yada, yada. But how Bo Nix in practice has bounced back, Chad, has faced adversity, throwing picks and having bad practices, and then following that up with really good practices, with touchdown passes, with development, with progress. That's the biggest takeaway. And the more that others speak out about it, the more it becomes apparent.
Resilience, baby.
Yes.
Howie, so glad to hear you got your jersey, big dog. That was just kind of on a whim, like, you know how I like to do that sometimes. Let's see. I want to know who wears in this community right now, only within the sound of my voice, as like right now, real time. I want to know who wears a size 11 or pardon me, a size large in jersey. Okay. I want to know if you wear a size 11, be honest, super chatters and supporters. If you wear a size 11, gosh, why did I do that again? Large. I want to hear it in the chat. Shot creator. Thank you, big dog. Appreciate you. Very, very kind of you to throw down a super chat. Much love and respect. Zach, we get back to the resilience thing, and you brought that up. You talked about that. I think it's actually much more crucial to the makings of a franchise quarterback than perhaps is really considered, because think about last year, MHH meet and greet. Green Bay Packers roll into town, right? And Jordan Love, he was kind of at that point, giveth and he taketh, right? The Packers were pretty much a middling team. It was the very beginning stages of the post-Aaron Rodgers era in Green Bay. And frankly, from what we saw in that game and just leading up to whatever that was, week 7, I want to say, not a lot to lead you to believe, Zach, that less than a year later, he'd be getting the mega contract that he got, right? And yet he bumped his head, showed the resilience to hang in there, get up off the mat, battle forth. And not only did the Packers season turn around, obviously, but look where he's at today. And that is one of the earmarks, one of the hallmarks, I should say, of a franchise quarterback. So it's encouraging to see some of those traits early on from Bo, at least in practice.
You have to have it if you want to be the guy for 10 plus years. The ability to have amnesia, forget about the last play, focus on the next, bounce back, resiliency. I mean, we could point to Paxton Lynch, Chad. When things went wrong, what did he do? He was crying on the sideline. Even Drew Lock, who we were proponents of, there were still some immaturity concerns with him. You questioned his resiliency and his mental toughness. You don't have to worry about that with Bo Nix, a guy who stresses doing the boring stuff and mastering the boring, the simple, because that's how you become a master at your craft.
Hey, string guy, the wife dealing with some empty nest syndrome. I feel you. I've had to deal with that now two times. It's a little transitory period. I'm sure you guys will bounce back from it, but congrats to your firstborn flying the nest down from Illinois to start college. Really cool stuff, string guy. Thanks for the update. Really, really cool. Also, we got a super chat jumping in here from A Rose. What up? What up? Good to see you, big dog. It has been a minute. It says, what's up, fellas? Long time since I've caught a live pod. I'm very optimistic how things have been progressing. Exciting times ahead. You guys are the best. Oh, thank you, buddy. Hashtag in Bo we trust. Dem Bronx for life. Go Broncos. MHH. I love it. Yeah, it's a good reflection point here, Zach, because we're basically 10 full days of practice into training camp. Yesterday was kind of the closest thing the Broncos will do to an actual inter-squad scrimmage. And then, of course, coming up, we've got the first preseason game later this week. And it was kind of interesting in that format, move the ball. The Broncos kind of tried to, from a coaching perspective, raise the stakes, up the intensity a little bit, and see what came out in the wash. And still, people can't stop buzzing about Bo Nix.
First of all, A Rose, thank you so much. Good to see you again, and hope you could stick around for the duration of the season. It's always good to have you in the live chats. And yeah, I mean, we've been down this road before. Every year we have the, copium, whatever you want to call it. But this year just feels different. It feels like the Broncos are building in the right direction. And I, for one, Chad, now that we know the starters are going to play in the preseason, cannot wait to see Bo out there against the Colts on the 11th.
I mean, we used to complain often on this podcast. We didn't see it as much under the year one of the Sean Payton thing. Thank God. But let's just say the preceding 4 years, honestly, the three with Vic, it was three, right? 19, 20, 20, let's see, 19, 20, 21, 22. Gosh, the preceding 5 years. So the last one of VJ. All three Vic, and then I almost forget sometimes about the Hackett thing. That's like what trauma, how sometimes you just bury it. People forget terrible things that happen to them. But anyway, we used to complain about the here we go again thing, right? Like the first sign of adversity in a game, guy gets, destroyed in coverage, or quarterback gets picked off, or whatever. Everybody's eyes go down. Oh, here we go again. Hands on hips, slouch. And they would just let life happen to him. Yeah. And Drew Lock was not impervious to that. He was one of those guys, for the most part, if he had an early mistake, Zach, it was hard in a single game to see him, very rare to see him bounce back from that in a meaningful way. But it's so much a part of what makes a legit NFL quarterback. That mental toughness, that resilience comes from confidence, comes from belief. I think it does also come from repetitions, but I got to tell you, Zach, I got to remind everybody, not all quarterbacks are created equal. Drew Lock, SEC, played and started a lot of games before he came to the league. He was nearly a 4-year starter. I mean, almost, or maybe he was, off the top of my head. He played a lot of games, not as many as Bo. Bo had that one extra year, but still, there's something about what takes place. Experience helps build confidence, yes, but you are either a walking confident person who believes in yourself and doesn't dwell on the past, or you're not. And as a quarterback, it doesn't take long for that to come out.
Yeah, well said. And it's also nice to have a quarterback with some sort of personality, and nothing against Russell Wilson. He is who he is, but when Bo has a good play, he'll show it. He'll have that, that emotion. When he has a bad play, you'll see that emotion come out. He won't just stand on the sideline and spout cliches off. So there's a lot of intangibles to like about Bo Nix to go along with his tangible qualities as a passer.
So Bo Nix, 61 career starts, an NCAA record. Drew Lock had 50. How much did that experience serve him in the league? Well, you can say, Bo had that one extra year, and you can't discount that. And it's true. It does add up. But that's not that big of a point of demarcation, right, Zach? Like if we were talking about NFL veteran quarterbacks, we're not categorizing guy who has 61 NFL starts in a whole different way than guy who has 50. So it again comes back down to like, what do they got in terms of intangible traits and qualities? Dennis, what's going on, big dog? So good to see you.
Thank you, Dennis.
Up in, let's see if Steel Trap. Here we go. Michigan. Up in Michigan. What is good, big dog? He says, after he's cut, will Zach Wilson sign with the practice squad or will he look elsewhere? Maybe the CFL? Also, Joe Milton pushing for QB1 in New England. Crazy. Thoughts? Broncos for life. MHH for life. Zach.
That's New England's problem. They use the top 5 pick on Drake May, and I haven't heard about Milton pushing for starting reps. That would be crazy, but we'll see what happens there. With Zach Wilson, I could see him landing on the Broncos practice squad. I can see him landing on another team's 53 because he has that draft pedigree. Another coach, Chad, could say what Sean Payton did, and, I can fix him. I can be the one and try to take on a cheap flyer. But the CFL, he would have to flame out a couple more times to fall that low.
So for craps and giggles, I just Googled Joe Milton, right? And this comes from our sister site, Tennessee Volunteers on SI. Let me just read this here. However, reports surfaced earlier this week Milton was outshining May in training camp, and one well-known media is cashing in his early predictions for who the Patriots, and this is Colin Cowherd, who said, quote, the 6th-round quarterback, Joe Milton's probably going to win the job because he's the better athlete. He's bigger, he's stronger, faster, more dynamic athlete. I don't need to read it anymore. But, he goes on to share an anecdote about how, the Washington back in the day, 2012, hey, you drafted 2 quarterbacks, RG3 in the top 5, and then Kirk Cousins later on. And even though RG flashed early, it ended up being Cousins who was the longer-term quarterback. But, dude, this is why this goes back to, hey, props to Milton. Keep it up with the momentum. God bless. But I didn't like Dre May, his relative experience. Like, I didn't see enough from him in his film to go, oh, my gosh, to totally disabuse me or make me forget of kind of his, even though he had, if memory serves, 2 solid years, his 1-year wonder-ish kind of thing that made him this, it could go 1, could he go 2? He scared me. I was reminded of Mitchell Trubisky, and not just because of the school.
Yeah, I don't want to memory hold my takes on this podcast. I was like, all in whoever Sean Payton wants, trade up for Drake May, trade up for McCarthy, trade up for whoever. But hindsight's wonderful, Chad. And in hindsight, I'm very happy the Broncos kept their draft picks and landed Bo Nix at 12.
We'll see. I mean, that's one guy predicting for what it's worth, Milton, but that's not our problem. But Zach Wilson, I got to tell you, man, like, I wasn't Eric. What's up, dude? Good to see you. Thank you, bro, for the stars. I wasn't the guy advocating for Zach Wilson or predicting Zach Wilson was going to be the QB1. I asserted a few arguments to where if it was close enough between Zach and Stidham, where it would make financial sense for the Broncos to go with Wilson as the backup, if it was that close. Hasn't been that close, Zach. And I got to tell you that I'm a little bit surprised that it's been this bad. Not that he's basically stayed as QB3, but he's been actually quite bad for a young quarterback with 33 career starts. Surprising even me, who's seen some atrocious quarterback play over the years.
I mean, you could take the dog out of the yard, but you can't take the yard out of the dog, Chad. I mean, I might have messed that up in some way, but you know what I'm trying to say? Like, Zach Wilson is who he is. And I wasn't trying to be a Debbie Downer or fight you about Zach Wilson when the Broncos acquired him. I just didn't see what they'd be mining for, what he could really offer. And he's shown in training camp so far that he's not much more than QB3.
At least it was just a song and a cup of coffee given up, basically, to acquire him. But Keith, what's going on? Brugman in the house on Facebook. So good to see you, bro. Thank you for being with us, the support, contributing to the conversation. Much love. He says, Chad, Zach, and Broncos country, who is the rookie you're most excited to see this season and which veteran as well? Well, I mean, for me, it's Bo, but that's the easy answer. So if we take Bo Nix out of the equation, Zach, who is the rookie you're most excited to see and which vet?
If you would have asked me this a couple weeks ago, I would have said Troy Franklin, and I'm still excited for him. But Audric Estime, man, he is running people over in training camp, Chad. He is a bowling ball with butcher knives out there, and just what he can do with Javonte Williams, and then Jaleel McLaughlin's had a great training camp. They have Blake Watson coming back now. The backfield is one of the offense's strengths now, and Audric has been leading that charge. So I'm really excited to see him.
Me too. I'm really stoked to see it. I'm also interested to see what Blake Watson looks like after they paid him what they did or promised him what they did to come in and compete. He's basically guaranteed at least a practice squad spot. But, you know, the problem with earmarking a guy for the practice squad coming out of camp, Zach, is that at least one time you got to expose him to waivers. And then just because a guy's on the practice squad, he's still a free agent, dude. I mean, he can sign anywhere. Any team can come in and be like, "Yay, we want to put you on the roster." And he's like, "Adios." That team that he's on has first right of refusal. They can say, no, we're going to sign him to the 53, from what I understand anyway, of NFL rules. But still, I'm curious to see that dude. But also Jonah Ellis. You know, you've got two veteran, your two projected starters at outside linebacker, Baron Browning and Jonathan Cooper, both entering a contract year. The probability, Zach, that the Broncos will re-sign both is slim to none. There's a good chance they don't re-sign either of them. But, I mean, I think it's relatively safe bet that to say one guy gets to come back. We'll see. But, you know, that's all health willing and whatnot. But the point remains that you want to see another big developmental curve turning from Nick Bonitto, but also what do you got in this Jonah Ellis kid, you know, who is, third round pick, a lot of the similar kind of pros and cons to him that Nick Bonitto had coming out. So I'm excited to see that dude in action.
Yeah, for sure. A couple veterans too that I'm looking forward to watching. Patrick Surtain, I know it's PS2, but how he bounces back after a subpar season. And also the defensive line, Chad, that has been creating havoc in training camp. I want to see what Zach Allen looks like in year 2 with the Broncos. And also John Franklin Myers, the offseason acquisition from the Jets. He has been blowing it up. That D line is deep now, and they are creating chaos.
Yes, indeed. That dude is like fierce, bro.
Yeah.
John Franklin Myers is fierce. What's up, Howie? Again, he says, I hope Bo starts against the Colts and plays for at least a full quarter, hoping a full half. Yeah, I don't think he's going to. So the one thing is, like, I don't know why. I can try to rationalize on their behalf, but, you know, I don't live in Sean Payton's head. But it seems like, at least for the sake of locker room credibility, best guy, you know, we're going with the guy that gives us the best chance to win. There hasn't been enough that's happened in camp, as encouraging as it's been to see from Bo Nix, even if he was like straight dominating over Stidham every single practice. A coach who said it's going to be, now remember, this is because he said it's going to be an open competition. We're going to go with the best guy. Now you got to kind of live by that in the locker room. And even if Bo Nix was utterly destroying Jarrett Stidham throughout training camp, you got to wait till at least the first game against an outside team before you probably shake up anything there. So it would be a pure shock to me, Zach, if all of a sudden it's announced Bo's going to start the Indianapolis Colts game next Sunday. I think you'll get to see Jarrett Stidham start that game. I think you'll see a lot of Bo Nix in that game. I wouldn't worry too much about saying, I hope we get to see him. You'll see plenty of Bo Nix. And then I think you'll see Bo Nix start the second one, then you'll get a decision. I don't think they're going to take you all the way through the summer. I think they'll go 1-2, decision, and then you go into that last game, which now Zach serves from the old traditional 4-game preseason. It's like a mix between the dress rehearsal and the completely obsolete, meaningless 4th preseason game.
I think you're right in the timeline and how they're going to take it down kind of to the wire this summer. If I had it my way, you know, I would cut Zach Wilson this week and give Bo Nix and Jarrett Stidham more reps against the Colts in the preseason. But then again, you're exposing them, and knocking wood, you're exposing Bo to injury the longer you play him in the preseason. So there's always that consideration as well.
Well, hey, I guess someone's got to run the third team, right? I mean, there's a reason they call it a camp arm. Broncos have had plenty of those guys over the years.
What's DiNucci up to?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, at least Sean Payton kept DiNucci around for a whole NFL calendar, year, basically. Yeah. So there was something there he liked out of him. Zach, I got to get your take on this. What's up, Big Aaron? Good to see you, buddy. Broncos country only, my dog. Phil jumping in down in Tucson. What's up, bro?
Thank you, Phil.
Says, good evening, Chad, Zach, and Deacon Scott on the road. Just sending some love. Buckham, MHH for life, Broncos for life. Thank you, my brother. We love you. Eric Flynn jumping in again with some stars. You're a prince. Thank you, buddy. George wants to know on Facebook, what's your opinion on the new kickoff? It looks very odd. Broncos for life, MHH for life. It does look odd. It's a different – there's something about it, Zach, that's like arena football-ish. There's something about it that's just – it'll take a little getting used to, but I think fans in the end will take to it because it is more exciting.
Exactly. Anything that seems new agey or progressive that's coming into the old guard NFL is going to cause some, pearls to be clutched. It's going to look weird until we all get used to it, and then we'll wonder, how hasn't this been the norm all this time?
You and I are the types that if it's something we like, we want the things we like to stay the way they are.
Absolutely.
Because that's what we love and like about it, like and love about it, whatever. But sometimes you got to change, adapt or die, right? The principle of evolution. I'm not convinced they had to make this change. Like, I think there were some things decided by the league and the competition committee and whatnot, a couple of 2, 3, 4, 5 years back that ultimately narrowed their options to a point where they either fully regress back to making things a little bit more, conducive to the kickoff, or they utterly change things. And this is only, for what it's worth, this is a 1-year thing. They're basically giving it a shot, seeing how it works out. If it works out to their liking, it'll stick. If not, they'll go back to the drawing board. But that's our opinion on that, George. Great to see you tonight, big dog. And I still believe, as Mike here is saying, it plays to an advantage for the Denver Broncos. Marvin Mims, an all-pro returner. What's up? We got this is my aunt Karen jumping in. It's you. You're the bomb. Chatty. Oh, thank you. So good to see you. Love you. The Duchess jumping in again. Michaela Parker, what is up? She says, by
the way,
how are Daniels, May, and McCarthy doing? So May, Zach, I haven't kept up too much on Daniels and McCarthy, but May, as we mentioned earlier, has not been all that impressive. I think the general vibe on May and Patriot land has been kind of disappointment. The expectation being that they're going to give it to Jacoby Brissett, and some point midstream this season, they'll just kind of by force hand it to May once they've lost, 3-4 games or whatever, and let the future begin.
Yeah, with Daniels and Washington, I haven't really kept abreast too much of other quarterbacks. I've been focusing obviously on Bo Nix, but he's going to probably start out there. I don't see him. He hasn't been disaster. Hasn't lost the job by all accounts. McCarthy, he's made some plays from what I've seen on Twitter and highlights and stuff like that, but I think Sam Darnold will be starting for Minnesota come week 1. And just like what you said with Drake May, maybe mid-season or sooner, he'll pass the baton to McCarthy and he'll be starting over there for the Vikings.
We've got also here, thank you, Michaela. Again, 3rd super chat. Yeah. And guys, we are celebrating, as the ticker says here, we are celebrating Zack Kelberman's birthday weekend. It's the birthday stream. Let's go. Mike Edel, bro, good to see you.
Thank you, Mike.
Says, good evening, gentlemen. Happy birthday, Zach. I don't think any of these teams are going to show much on these kickoffs until the regular season. So pumped for the season. Go Broncos. Go MHH. Yeah, dude, we're in August, and the season starts a little bit earlier in September this year. Like, wasn't it last year started the 2nd week?
It's always been, yeah. Usually.
Anyway, whatever the case, we're on the home stretch, y'all. And the preseason games for the Broncos anyway start exactly a week from today.
And thank you, Mike, again. And thank you for everyone with the birthday wishes in the chat. I've seen every single one. Very much appreciate that. And I'm so happy, Chad, for Broncos country that we're getting these types of messages. And I know we get them every year. So pumped for the season and so hopeful for the future. But it just, again, it feels different this time around. And if any fan base in the NFL deserves happiness and success and good news, it's Broncos country.
No doubt. Well, hey, Keith, on your road trip, give me one band besides Bridge the Gap I should listen to next week. I would tell you, listen to Descendants. That's what I would say, but it's spelled funny. ENTS, Descendants. Check them out. Hashtag Bill Stevenson. Nick, what's up, bro? He says, Chad and Zach, I'm assuming we'll be a heavy running team while Bo Nix learns and grows throughout the season with the speed of the NFL and learning the offense. How do you rate our running backs, and how are you feeling about the O-line blocking for him? Much love. MHH for life. Thank you, Nick. Good to see you, big dog. Zach, what's your answer for him?
Ask me again on the gut reaction next Sunday, Nick. We have to see the offensive line in action in a real game setting. We have to see the running backs in a real game setting. Training camp, we can only glean so much, but what we could glean has been very positive. The offensive line, again, training camp has been creating holes for the running game, but more importantly, the running backs. Javonte looks pre-injury form. Audric looks like, again, a bowling ball out there. Then you have the speedier guys with McLaughlin and Blake Watson. The running game should look strong. And not to pat ourselves on the back too much, Chad, but even Sean Payton talked about something we've been hammering home since the day Bo Nix was drafted. The best thing they can do, thank you so much, Todd, best thing they can do is surround Bo Nix with a solid defense and a dominant running game. Looks like the running game, they can check one off of that to-do list.
I mean, even when he's had great running backs, Sean Payton traditionally, Eric Trickle had a nice write-up on this this past week, but Sean Payton has traditionally deployed a running back by committee approach. Yeah. And the question is, does he have a great guy in this stable? I think there's a really good chance still, Zach. I'm optimistic that Javonte going into a contract year, having lost some weight, now also being 2 years, in real time removed from that injury, I think has a chance to produce at a special level, but that's a TBD, to be decided. We shall see. Meanwhile, I mean, Audric Estime, really impressive. Where does Samaje Perine fit into this thing? He might be, because of his contract, on the outside looking in when it's all said and done. Does Jalil, who's been working like just going off, bought a jugs machine to work on his pass catching prowess as a guy coming out of the backfield, Blake Watson. I think it's a nice, interesting, dynamic stable of backs that give you balance between power, veteran experience, third down, pass catching, all the little different things. It's a nice balance of veteran and young guys. And I'm probably a lot more bullish on the O-line than you are, Zach. But I'm still stunned. Luke Wattenberg.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't even seem like it's been close, Zach, like as far as who's getting the lion's share of the one reps at center. So that's the only thing is, like, everything I saw from Luke Wattenberg, as granted, a guy filling in mostly at left guard his first 2 years, just here and there, right? Not a lot of exposure, but what I saw from him, I was like, yikes. He's the leader in the clubhouse at center. It could just simply be that that's what his natural position is, and he brings a lot more to the table with his particular traits and whatnot as a center. But I still feel pretty optimistic because you got, I think, one of the better tackle duos, at least in the AFC. You got a phenomenal guard duo. Mm-hmm. What happens at center, I think whatever happens, that balance on both sides should raise the ship for that pivot as he's kind of getting his game legs underneath him. That's good stuff. I think it bodes well for Bo Nix. Also, Zach, who Sean Payton was talking about yesterday, he's hard to sack. He's a hard sack. And finally, on his own volition, compared him to Drew Brees in that sense too. So interesting stuff.
How happy do you think Sean Payton was to say that, Chad, to talk about a quarterback of his that was difficult to sack after what he's been with the last couple of years? And you're right about the offensive line on paper. My apprehension is, like you mentioned, at center. I personally wanted Alex Forsythe, but maybe Wattenberg is showing something. Regardless, though, they're in good hands with Zach Strief, Sean Payton, the coaching. And if those things can work simpatico, the offensive line can create holes and the running game takes advantage. You're not putting Bo Nix in dangerous situations. You're not putting him in third and longs, second and longs. You're keeping it short, down in distance, and moving the sticks and letting him operate off play action. Those are the basics, Chad. Those are the bones of the offense.
Well, it was also kind of a subtle slam. I don't think he meant this, but by default, the implications are what they are. A subtle dig at Russ when he talked about sack totals are more a reflection of a quarterback than they are the offensive line. I'll see if I can find the direct quote here while we're live, but obviously, in his opinion, the volume of sacks the Broncos suffered and surrendered or relinquished, whatever you want to say, last year, it sounds like Sean Payton's trying to tell everybody that was more because of our quarterback, not our offensive line.
Just anyone go back and rewatch that Patriots game if you dare, when he's scrambling horizontally and literally scrambled right into pressure off the edge. It was horrifying, Chad. Still is.
I'm trying to find the specific link. It's almost, or quote, it's almost worthy of like an article built around it by itself.
I think Scott's got it in the side chat.
Okay, here we go. Thank you, buddy. Quote, this is from Payton. Quote, I used to say this all the time. The sack numbers are a reflection more on the quarterback than the offensive line. Breeze was one of those guys. He was a tough sack. The ball came out quick, and I think Bo has traits like that. Close quote. Thank you, Scott. That's what we want to see. That's what you want to see. I mean, so many interesting, compelling, exciting components. I mean, are you excited yet, Broncos country, about your first-round pick? Taylor, good to see you, big dog. Much love and respect. How are you? Appreciate the super chat. So consistent. Pardon me. He says, who should be in the Hall of Fame next? His answer is Tom Jackson, the linebacker. He of the It's All Over Fat Man fame, directed at, of course, the late great John Madden. Or Mike Shanahan, he's saying, Zach, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Other than Vaughn, who should make the Hall of Fame from the Super Bowl 50 team? Ooh, interesting. I got to tell you, Mike Shanahan is my next top guy that just, as far as egregious miscarriages of football justice, Mike Shanahan deserves to be in the Hall. After him, I'm going to stay on this, dude. Rod Smith for the Hall. Why is Rod Smith not even like plausibly debated as a legitimate Hall of Fame contender? I want to turn that. I want to get that somehow, Zach, interjected into like the NFL at large zeitgeist. Rod Smith for the Hall. But who from that Super Bowl 50 team, who else should make it? Because I mean, DeMarcus, he's already there. Vaughn will be there. Who else should be there?
I guess maybe I'm looking at the secondary because they were so dominant. Obviously not TJ Ward or Darian Stewart. Chris Harris Jr. is one of the best slot cornerbacks in recent history, but is he a Hall of Famer? I'm not totally sure about that. Aqib Talib, he was one of the better corners in the NFL for quite a while, going back to his time with New England. Is he a Hall of Famer, though, or a Hall of Very Good? That's kind of where I settle on Aqib Talib. I don't know.
I would assert Aqib, and here's what I would stand on. He has, of course, the jacket. You know, let's just catalog it real fast. First team All-Pro, second team All-Pro, 5-time Pro Bowler, Super Bowl champion. But he is hold on. All-time NFL pick six leaders. Interception return for a touchdown career leaders. So Rod Woodson, right? Darren Sharper, he's doing time. Charles Woodson, then Aqib Talib at number 4, Zach, with 10 career pick sixes. I think that puts him at least in strong consideration for the Hall of Fame.
I mean, if you twist my arm, I could hear an argument for it, I guess. He's just not like a first ballot slam dunk Hall of Famer like Von Miller to me. I guess that's my point I was making.
Yeah, there's Payton obviously is in there on the offensive side already. Demaryius, man, he's one of those guys that the late great Demaryius Thomas. Zach, what do you think about his potential Hall of Fame candidacy?
I don't want to seem like I'm slamming DT, but kind of the same boat as Aqib. Maybe even a little less of an argument. Again, a very, very good receiver for quite a while, but there's so many other great receivers that didn't make it, or other great players. I don't know if he'll get in, Chad. Certainly not first ballot.
It's tough, man. He didn't quite, if memory serves. Let me double check this. I was going to say he didn't quite get over the 10K mark. Hold on. On receiving, finished with 9,763 career, but 63 tutties, 128 games started, Zach, 724 receptions. I mean, you look at Demaryius Thomas, his accolades jacket, like what he brings to the table in his war chest of accolades. We're talking about, obviously, his Super Bowl championship, let's also not forget he was the only heartbeat the team had in the Super Bowl 48 amidst the blowout. He set records in that game. It was in a losing effort, but wasn't his fault. 2-time All-Pro Zach, 5-time Pro Bowler, and the number of 1,000-yard campaigns he brought to the table was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and they were consecutive. And then his sixth, he came 51 yards shy, Zach, in 2017 of a sixth straight 1,000-yard season. Like, I'll tell you this. There are plenty of wide receivers currently enshrined in the Hall of Fame who I would say Demaryius Thomas has a stronger resume that he brings to the table. So hopefully the Bronco bias doesn't affect his eventual candidacy. I think he should at least be strongly considered by and through all the processes that players have to go through.
Again, I don't want to seem like I'm being critical of DT, but he's 61st all time in receiving yards. 58th is Wes Welker. I feel like if you want to go on, it's all about vanity, Chad, about receiving yards, Super Bowls, rings, MVPs. I feel like Welker would have a better candidacy, chance than DT. Again, DT, Broncos legend, Broncos Ring of Famer, but Hall of Famer, not totally sure.
What's one of the things they say about Hall of Fame candidacy? Can you write that player's era? Write about that era without mentioning him. I mean, you could write about 2010 through whatever it was, 2022, 2020. Oh, I guess his last year was 19. My bad. So 2010 through 2019, you could write that era if you were trying to without mentioning him. But I think honestly, Zach, you would have to specifically be trying not to mention DT if you were comprehensively writing about that era of the NFL, even if for no other reason than what he did in that Super Bowl the Broncos got blown out in. Then to get the redemption of Super Bowl 50, 5 straight 1,000 yards, the Pro Bowls, he's got a resume, dude. So it'll be interesting to see if what the future holds for him in that regard.
Plus the Tebow play.
What's that?
Plus the Tebow play.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Iconic. You can't, the NFL you can't talk about NFL 2010 through 2019 without at least mentioning the Tebow Mania season, like at least mentioning it. And if you're going to mention it, how does it culminate? It culminates, well, technically in a brutal beatdown loss on the road in the divisional round in New England, but golly, beating the defending AFC champion Steelers and the way they did that play, iconic. Eric brings up Ryan Clady as a potential Hall of Famer. And yeah, dude, he's another guy. The problem about Clady is he didn't win anything. Yeah. Technically, Zach, he has a Super Bowl 50 ring because he was on the injured reserve. But he didn't play that year. He got hurt. So two-time first team All-Pro. He earned a second team All-Pro, 4-time Pro Bowler. To me, I love Clady, and I think if he would have had just a little bit more luck by way of the injury bug, I'd be singing a different tune. But Hall of the Very Good. Should be in the Broncos Ring of Fame. Hall of the Very Good.
I would have put Tom Nalen in the Hall of Fame before I put Ryan Clady
thank
in
you.
the Hall of Fame.
How could I forget Tom Nalen?
It's another player in Clady's case. Loved him, loved watching him play, but Hall of Very Good, just short of the Hall of Fame.
Zach, guys, this is your 2-minute warning on the Zack Kelberman birthday stream. Any burning topics, questions, get them in the chat. Supers, of course, we'll get to every super before we dip. And yeah, Roy Mecklenburg as well. He's so deserving. I don't know why he doesn't get consideration, dude. Talk to Thomas Hall, by the way, about some of the career distinctions that dot Mecklenburg's resume. It's quite unique. But Zach, Levi Wallace, who's been having a great camp, right? Mm-hmm. Getting his hand on the ball a lot, picked off Bo Nix last weekend. So far, so good. Exits practice Friday. Was it Friday? I want to say with a hamstring, or was it Saturday? I think it was actually yesterday. What are your thoughts on the injury? Do you think it's going to be long term? What are your thoughts?
It's like Lauren Landau all over again with the hamstrings. Now I'm playing. You know, Brandon Jones had one a couple days ago, but it happens in training camp. You got to roll with it. Hopefully, you know, he gets it under control because they can linger if not treated correctly. He's been a very underrated addition. When Broncos signed Levi Wallace, fans went, "Who the hell is Levi Wallace? Never heard of him before," but he can play, and you need some sort of stability out there opposite PS2. Damari Mathis, I'm sad to report, Chad, is looking like he's not it. He's having a rough go in training camp, even working with the threes, even working with the backups. Riley Moss has been a little inconsistent in his first full year healthy. I wanted him to step up, but Levi, man, has been the consistent force opposite PS2. Hopefully he can stay healthy and get healthy, stay healthy, and be that solid cornerback too.
Also, if it trends the way it's trending, the Broncos will have their two boundary corners will be Alabama alma maters. Both PS2 and Wallace hail from the Crimson Tide. For what it's worth, sometimes have to be reminded of that because it's not often that a Alabama corner, Zach, doesn't get drafted. And that's what happened in the case of Levi Wallace back in whatever it was, 2018, I think. Ronk, thank you, brother. Appreciate the props, my friend, and the kind words and contributing to the conversation each and every night. Zach, you're still getting some birthday wishes here from the community. Shar jumping in, Greg jumping in.
Greg.
Good to see you. This is how you know he's down, dude. He's so down for the Broncos that he's rocking his AJ Bouye still in his Facebook profile pic. And I mean that, dude. Like, you're down. Also, you got this Zach jumping in with the HBD, so appreciate that. David Vasquez as well. Thank you, David. But we do have a few messages for you guys before we dip out. Don't leave quite yet.
Another tremendous installment, as always, of the Mile High Huddle podcast. If you're not doing so, please follow us on Twitter at the MHH Pod. You can follow the main account on Twitter at Mile High Huddle. Chad at Chad and Jensen, myself at Kelberman NFL, and Scott, our producer, at Scout Kennedy. If you guys want some MHH merch, check out MHHmerch.com and get you some. If you haven't done so yet, please drop us a like at Facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod. You can find us on Instagram at Mile_High_Huddle. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, make sure you're leaving your football priest a 5-star review for a chance to win some merch each and every single month. But if anything, y'all, please, please, please subscribe, like, and share this video and every video you see on the MHH channel. It really, really helps us grow and reach more Broncos fans just like you.
Real quick, on Instagram, some shouts to Leroy. What's up? He's giving Zach a happy birthday.
Thank you, Leroy.
Enjoy your special day. Been a long time since I've been on the pod. Mile High salute. Right back at you, Leroy. Good to see you on IG tonight, my friend. Shouts to the IG. We're trying to be more consistent on Instagram, so it's great to have you guys with us. But a Mile High salute and a special shout out to the great Super Chat superstars and supporters tonight, helping us indeed here on the 4th of August. Keep the lights on like the Duchess.
Thank you.
3 different times throwing down a super, including this very generous one. We love you, Michaela. The Papa Bear, early before we even go live, both he and Michaela. This is ride or die members of our community. We love you, David. The Ronk as well. So consistent and supportive. Shot Creator, what's up? Howie frickin' Day, what's up? A Rose back in the house. Dennis Woods. Good to see Dennis. Dennis, by the way, been with us a long time.
Yep.
Since the very beginning of the live stream thing at MHH, I recall Dennis Woods. So great to see you, bud. Eric, good to see the Flynnmeister. Keith Brugman and his luscious beard rocking out, talking some Broncos. Also, a little bit of music. That's how you keep my attention. Talk Broncos, talk music, and I'll be here all day long. Phil down in Tucson checking in. We love you, big dog. George Fox, what it is. Mike Edel, love you, big dog. Taylor Christensen, love you, big dog. Thanks to each and every one of you. And Zach and I, hey, it's Sunday, so that means we're back tomorrow night. Can't wait.
That's right. Have a great rest of your Sunday. We'll see you tomorrow. Take care. And as always, go Broncos.